across the country, you're doing your book tour, and I'm wondering if you're coming across other district attorneys.
No.
That are
At this point, no. But you have to realize that's totally consistent, totally compatible with the fact that no one is coming forward, no public official, no celebrity, no member of Congress, no newspaper, no network, no cable is coming forward and endorsing my book. Even though, it may sound boastful, this is a heck of a book. This is like every other true crime book I've ever written. I write about the major crimes of the 20th century, the Manson case, the Simpson case, the Kennedy assassination. In every one of those books, talk to people who have read them, I prove my case beyond a reasonable doubt. I do the same identical thing in this book here. I present the evidence and the applicable law to reach my conclusion. It's a very powerful book. People who haven't read the book think it's bizarre, crazy. Try to find someone who has read the book who says there's anything crazy about this book. It's very solid. The evidence is overwhelming that this guy, George Bush, took this country to war on a lie, under false pretenses, and therefore under the law. He's guilty of murder for the deaths of over 4,000 young American soldiers who have died so far fighting his war in Iraq.
Now, do you think the lack of support is because of the fear factor that you discussed in your...
It would take me too long to explain to you, but I can tell you that my belief is that people are afraid to come forward because of fear. Fear of whom? Whom are they afraid of? I believe, and it would take me a long time to explain it to you, that it's a fear of the right wing in America. A virulent, dangerous group of people, the most unpatriotic, un-American of all Americans, but they've transformed this nation into a nation where for the very first time, many everyday Americans no longer feel completely safe and comfortable. What other reason under the moon would there be, other than fear of the right wing, for reviewing my book, having me on your show? They don't want to have anything to do with this book. They're staying away from it the way the devil stays away from holy water. They're all staying away from it, except progressive Democrats. Even mainstream Democrats are staying away from it. But it's a heck of a book.
Now,
Some people have said it's my best true crime book ever. Let me just add one point. If I could ask a rhetorical question to probably help convince you that maybe the source of all this fear is the right wing. We know that no one has done anything to George Bush, okay? Nothing. No investigation by Congress or the Department of Justice, no impeachment, nothing. Here's my question. What do you think would happen if Bill Clinton did the same identical thing that George Bush has been doing over the past 8 years, including Iraq? The death penalty would be too good for him. They'd skin him alive. Why? Same identical conduct. Clinton, they go after him and savage him. Look what they did to him over having consensual sex outside of marriage. They impeached him, almost drove him from office. Ken Starr was funded by the American government, 7 years, $70 million effort to destroy the Clinton presidency over nothing. George Bush takes this nation to war under false pretenses. Over 100,000 people are in their cold graves right now as I am talking to you, and no one has done anything to him at all. Nothing. What's the difference? I think, without knowing, that the source of the difference is the right wing.
What does the congressional authorization to, quote, go to war with Iraq have to do with this as far as protecting Bush or providing a defense for him?
Well, it doesn't, because in the law, fraud, deception, vitiates, that means negates consent. A consent induced by fraud is no good. It goes out the window. Congress was deceived on October 11th to support George Bush for war. When I testified before the House Judiciary Committee on July the 25th, I gave them some evidence, the way they were deceived. One piece of evidence. On August the 7th, 2002, George Bush told the nation that Hussein was an imminent threat to the security of this country. He was telling millions of unsuspecting Americans the exact opposite of what his own CIA had told him just 6 days earlier in a top-secret classified document, October the 1st, that Hussein was not an imminent threat to the security of this country. 3 days later, October the 4th, the Bush administration put out an unclassified summary version of the classified October the 1st report. It was called the White Paper. In this White Paper, the conclusion of U.S. intelligence that Hussein was not an imminent threat to security of this country was completely deleted. Every single one of these all-important words were taken out. So 7 days later, when Congress authorized George Bush to go to war, they were unaware that in the October 1st classified report, all 16 U.S. intelligence agencies headed by the CIA said that Hussein was not an imminent threat to security of this country. So they were deceived into war. I'll give you some other deceptions. The October 1st report, classified report, in the area of nuclear weapons, there were several important dissents. The white paper that was given to Congress, all of those dissents were deleted. Also in the October 1st classified report, the statement that Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, it was prefaced by the words, "We assess that," or "We judge that Hussein has weapons of mass destruction." The white paper that was given to Congress, the words "We assess that," "We judge that" were taken out, and it said Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. So an opinion was changed into a fact. Long answer to your question, when they gave their consent on October 11th, it was induced by fraud. And consent induced by fraud is invalid.
Now, what precedents are out there where a politician is actually charged with crimes and successfully prosecuted?
I haven't studied that. I can tell you that no president has ever been prosecuted after he left office for a crime he committed while he was in office. But when Nixon resigned in 1974, there was quite a movement in this country, quite a clamor to prosecute him for Watergate-related crimes like obstruction of justice, subornation of perjury, wiretapping. And then, as you know, President Ford intervened and pardoned Nixon. Now, if Nixon had immunity from prosecution, as some people seem to think, there wouldn't have been any need for Ford to intervene and pardon him. So there hasn't been any precedent for this. But I would ask you this. What precedent is there for an American president deliberately and knowingly taking this nation to war under false pretenses? To my knowledge, that has never happened before. Not one speck of credible evidence. There have been allegations, but not one speck of credible evidence that any other president before Bush has done what Bush did. So of course there's not going to be a prosecution.
If you had your choice of states, your dream choice of states, which one would you choose?
Well, Vermont is an excellent state because over 30 cities in Vermont passed resolutions urging the impeachment of George Bush. Also, more soldiers have lost their lives per capita from Vermont than any other state in the Union. It's the only state that George Bush has not set foot in, of all 50 states. The negative, to a certain extent, is that there's no death penalty in Vermont. And in my opinion, George Bush has forfeited his right to live. But it's very favorable, Vermont, in many ways. It's a fertile state to go after George Bush. The people of Vermont, by and large, do not like George Bush. So it's a good state in that sense, but it does not have the death penalty.
What makes you different than other people? You seem to be fearless and like.
Well, you know, people say I'm fearless and I got courage. I don't view myself as a fearless, courageous guy. I'm motivated by anger. Let me say that. I'm motivated by anger. You know what I mean? I'm sure, before I started this, the thought entered my mind, you know, that taking on the President of the United States is a pretty heavy thing to do. So there was an element of fear. But my anger overrode that, you follow? I had so much anger against this guy. How dare he take this nation to war under false pretenses? And as many as 1 million people might be in their graves right now as I'm talking to you, decomposing. And he's responsible for that. He's responsible for that. And on top of it, the evidence is overwhelming. Young American kids who never had a chance to live out their dreams. I'm talking about 18, 19-year-old kids. Well, they were being blown to pieces by roadside bombs in Iraq. The evidence is overwhelming that this guy, George Bush, was having a lot of fun and enjoying life to the very utmost. How dare he? Where do you get the stratospheric, unprecedented guts to take the nation to war on a lie and on top of it, enjoy yourself throughout the entire war? How dare he? I'm not going to be satisfied until this guy is prosecuted for murder. I'm not going to let go. He cannot get away with murder. George Bush has gotten away, in my opinion, with thousands upon thousands of murders, and we, America, the American people, cannot let him do this.